The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by BASF and Pride Seeds.
Ken, every year as an independent agronomist you do thousands of plots and research, and you've highlighted 7 things that you learned this year, and I think there's some things that you learn every year. But let's talk about these. The first thing is, fundamentals matter. Agronomic fundamentals make it easier to get higher yields.
That's right. This year, and for our client base, we suffered a pretty severe drought, kind of a record-making drought for some of our growers. And if you got 1 or 2 things wrong in a normal year, they might ding you, but it's a small ding. In a year like 2012, there isn't much room for mistakes, and little mistakes turned out to be some big disasters in that situation. So the fundamentals of understanding everything from planting to nitrogen to insect to weed management, they come into play, and the more those you have a handle on and control, and the more you're likely you're going to survive a year like 2012.
Mm-hmm. You say, and number 2, technology is a game changer. Obviously, so many things have changed, even in the research that you do and the information you gather.
Yeah, from the research side, one of our shortcomings, our plots are field size. So we're running 12, 24, 36 row planters, and we'll take an 80 and we'll break it up into best we can a replicated plot and try to take that information. We're trying to get real live information out there in the field as far as versus a small 20 foot by 20 foot research plot. Trying to put it in a real life scenario. Well, today's technology allows that. We can, for instance, if we're studying planter attachments, we can put attachments on a planter, we can go out and we can plant so many passes through the field, come back, make our changes with auto steer and go back out there and make more passes. And with auto steer we can replicate, so we don't have to do 1 block here, 1 block here. We can replicate across the field like we do in a research style. The technology on the planter can tell us planting depth, down pressure, meter performances, all kinds of things that you can collect from the planter itself that lets you know if whatever you're studying, let's say a starter attachment, is affecting things like down pressure, smoothness of ride, that type of thing. It's from our perspective, it's a pretty exciting time, and we just see more and more of this type of technology rolling out the door. In the in-field research, it's a real windfall.
Number 3 on your list is really variable rate technology has arrived. And we talked about it today, from planting to nitrogen, it has arrived.
Yes, it has, and we have so many tools to help us make those decisions. It's still not an easy decision, but for us, for instance, we can look at yield maps and aerial imagery, for instance, from 2010 and 2012. We have a wet year and a dry year, and those will match up. The areas that burnt up this year were the areas that produced in 2010 and vice versa. But now I have a zone map that tells me where my highest water holding capacity is as far as usable water and where my least is. So 2010 tells me where my high risk nitrogen areas are. 2012 tells me where my high risk water management is as far as where I need to tame down populations and where I can push. For the guys that have been working with it, the tools that we have now, we're starting to really fine-tune those management zones, and I see some phenomenal responses in our plots this year, and most of them are to backing populations up, which you wouldn't want to let this year drive all your predictions. But the reality was we were able to save money in seed and increase yield when we put some of those stressed areas under drought stress.
Yeah, but as you talked about, it really still comes down to doing a good job with that planter pass.
Yeah, the planter pass, we say keep the planter pass sacred. That planter pass is the foundation piece. Now, things that we do pre-plant can make the planting easier, so we prepare a good seed bed and manage that. But if everything's perfect and things go awry at the planting pass, there's no way back from it. In a situation, that's the start. That's where our highest potential is, the day we put the planter in the field, and that's the most important pass we're going to make.
Yeah. And number 5 on your list was nitrogen demands management, and a tailored approach. It's just such an important input.
Nitrogen is pretty complicated and frustrating to manage because it's so tied to the environment and conditions that are going on, and I think a farmer just has to accept that. I wish we could say 1.1 or 1 pound per M per bushel and calculate it out on a spreadsheet and throw it out there anytime we want, but that's not the case. Timing placement of nitrogen is more important than the rate, but understanding the nitrogen cycle, understanding mineralization and immobilization all become part of it. And we have to manage nitrogen based on the environment, just like a livestock operator pays attention to his cattle herd, and as the environment changes, he may be making changes on a daily basis to monitor everything from pneumonia to the heat, that type of thing. Well, unfortunately, nitrogen is the same way. It's a moving target, and you know, it's not impossible, but we got to realize that it's probably our biggest challenge and probably the most important nutrient to manage. If we miss on nitrogen, we miss all the way around as well.
Now, another challenge, obviously, is maintaining or building a uniform soil density. That was another one you had to do.
That's right. We want to farm in a vertical format, so we want those root systems moving down, and that means removing horizontal layers, or at least eliminating the effect of horizontal layers best we can. And once we get the horizontal layers removed, then trying to farm in a format where we don't put them back in. Most horizontal layers are caused by horizontal tillage. Anything that shears in a horizontal plane, such as a disc, a soil finisher, field cultivator, moldboard plow, that type of thing. Once we get those layers out, it leaves us open to things like strip till and no-till and vertical tillage, where we replace the shovels on a machine and we start to use things like the rolling harrows and that type of thing. In 2012, within our customer base, the people who got deep roots came out of it in a lot better shape than those that got caught on top of a soil finisher layer or in a plow pan.
So the last thing you have on your list is number 7, and that is focus on the right thing. You know, there's a lot of information out there, a lot of things you can do, but making decisions and focus is key.
Yeah, and part of my job with my clientele is making sure they're focused on the right thing, and I see that all the time. A grower may be latched on to auto steer. He wants RTK auto steer. He wants to spend some serious money to get it done, but being in the field, you realize that he should be focusing on his corn planter because his corn planter's not doing the job. Or somebody might be focusing on variable rate, where they want to flex the rate up and down, but you realize he has such compaction in those fields, it doesn't make any difference what he does. We should manage the compaction first so we can actually use variable rate to farm the water out that he has. And it's not what's new at the trade show, it's not what the neighbor's doing, it's what you really need to do on your farm that's going to move your next bushels. And that goes back to doing the in-field evaluations throughout the year, studying, is it my nitrogen program I need to work on? Is it my seed selection, my herbicide, what is it? And I think sometimes we spend too much time and money in the wrong part, and it doesn't make any difference in the end.